One of the greatest books about making movies. The greatest making of book ever written. The Movie Director Bible. Only clowns who don't want to know anything about film and keep living a meaningless and pointless existence don't know this book. The Jaws Logbook. Drop out of film school, quit your day job, shoot the dog, leave your wife and kids behind because right here is the only book you will ever need to read about filmmaking. It is the quintessential behind-the-scenes account of the Jaws film and an inspiring tale about never giving up. So you still aren't going to read it, are you? Fair enough. That's why I am here. In this video, I'll be summarizing the most interesting parts of the book and also what you can learn from it. I'm going to start with one of the most mind-blowing stories from this book. The story of Carl Rizzo. Carl is a 4'9" ex-jockey who agrees to do the second unit shooting of the real great white sharks in Australia. Basically, the idea was that if they couldn't get big sharks, they would get small actors. To get the job, you had to be able to scuba dive. Carl could not. He lied and said he could, hoping he would learn as he went. What he did not expect was a giant great white shark attacking the cage. The shark destroys the cage and down it goes, with Carl below it. Luckily, the shark swims away and everyone is safe. The entire crew moved out to live at Martha's Vineyard. It was almost like a giant school camp. The higher-ups all lived in a log cabin together and would share a meal every night. I think this is very important because Carl Gottlieb, the author, highlights that without these ritualistic dinners, he would have gone crazy. Thereby, the relationship you can form with the crew can be very beneficial in making sure you get through a tough shoot. When Robert Shaw and his wife Mary arrived at Martha's Vineyard, they were met with a very odd surprise. Gunshots. A local eccentric fired rifle bullets into the house. To this day, no one knows why he did it. Luckily, only Robert's manservant was home, but he was in the bathroom. Apart from the door, no one was injured. There are hundreds of fascinating anecdotes like this in the book. So now it's time for Frasier's Fun Facts with 44 Clovers. Do not attempt to use these in a debate about Citizen Kane or French New Wave cinema. You will look like an imbecile. Number 1. The screenwriter, actor, and author of this book, Carl Gottlieb, almost died. He fell into the water during an unused take, and apart from the freezing waters, almost got his head taken off by the engine. Number 2. Murray Hamilton, the mayor in the movie, was walking home drunk as, well, a skunk. He goes to pat a cute little doggy, as you do, and lo and behold, it's a fucking skunk. He gets sprayed and is so drunk he doesn't realize it until the next morning. One burnt suit and a shit ton of showers later, and he is safe. Number 3. In Martha's Vineyard, Steven Spielberg got really into skeet shooting. One day out at sea on a rocky boat, he has a genius idea to try and bring guns on board to do some skeet shooting. Luckily, the crew says they will leave if he brings loaded guns on board. Number 4. On one of the biggest shooting days, one of the eye bolts in the hull broke. So what does this mean? The entire orca sinks to the depths of the ocean. Not in the movie, in real life, including the camera and the valuable film from that day's shooting. Divers were able to rescue the film by not letting it dry. Essentially, if wet film gets dry, it is completely ruined. Thereby, they quickly shipped it off to the lab to save it. Number 5. In the film, there is a scene where a fake shark has been caught. Unfortunately for the crew, they needed a real-life shark, and the one they caught was not big enough to fool anyone. As a result, some executives flew out to Florida to retrieve a shark big enough to convince the audience. They grab a private jet, throw it in a crate, and bring the shark back to Martha's Vineyard. The most inspiring part of this book is definitely the work ethic of Steven Spielberg and Carl Gottlieb. These two were working insane hours. On top of 14-hour days, they would go home and talk over the script. Then, Carl would spend the majority of the night writing the pages of the script that would be shot the next day. They did this for 159 days. During shoots, the crew had a lot of free time, so Steven began creating cheeky little insert shots. It was something to do, however, every one of these shots was used in the final picture. Working hard in film always pays off, even if you don't realize it. Another pivotal takeaway for me is how Carl outlined structure. Most movies at the time were doing a very similar structure. Act 1, a guy is stuck up a tree. Act 2, you throw rocks at him. And Act 3, you get him down. But Stevie said that Jaws was a 4-act structure. In Act 1, he is stuck in a tree, and the next 3 acts people throw rocks at him. That's what makes Steven Spielberg one of the best directors of all time. He literally reinvented the Hollywood formula. After Jaws, everyone stole the structure, and is basically still what we see to this day. The book ends on a very important message that I think is the purpose of the whole thing. Collaborative art only succeeds by virtue of the positive contribution by its participants. Jaws is not just a Steven Spielberg movie. It is not a Richard Dreyfuss film. It is a movie made by an entire team. The cameraman, gaffer, production manager, everyone on this film did something that contributed to the classic movie we all love. Carl consistently reminds the readers how skilled everyone on this project was. Filmmaking is a collaborative effort. To make something good, you need a great director. To make something great, you need an amazing team. If you made it this far, maybe consider checking out another video or subscribing. If you can't be asked, fair enough.